into an accident because it is inauspicious. And this is not somebody who is saying it. This is a person who is probably well educated. This is a person who is probably having a good job. This is a person who is financially capable of having a four-wheeler. Appalling, right? I just gave up when I heard the reason why he refused to take this woman. And I think the other biggest impact that attitudes would have is on their housing. I have gone to a number of individual houses where they have women with disabilities and they are in wheelchair users, but the toilet is very, very small. So we try and tell them, you can't expect her to crawl into a toilet. So can we kind of remodify? Sometimes I have said, I will build the toilet for you. They would still not even understand what it means for somebody who has a locomotor disability to crawl into a toilet which is already wet. Can you even imagine something like this? And this is like the attitude. The sentence that was told to me was, so what if we don't have a toilet that she can use? It is comfortable for us. As long as it is comfortable for us, it is enough. Right? Appalling. And this is not somebody else. This is like the community in which you are living. This is the neighborhood in which you are living, which is looking at you as something probably less than maybe an ant or an animal which is absolutely of no significance to anybody else. And I think the other most important issue that prevents or that affects people with women with disabilities is in networking. When I see men with disabilities, they would have already formed an association. They would have some gathering where they all sit, talk about, what to go, how to go and represent themselves in the government. What is it that they need? What should they do as a unit? You ask if, I don't know, at least in Pondicherry, I have not come across any women's group with disabilities. I've only seen men with disabilities, and these men are the ones. So social networking is a huge issue, and this is also why this is an invisible population, and a lot of what they go through never comes out. And that is because of the attitude that we have, where we think these women need not necessarily want to. I don't know how many of you actually know the story of this person called Malini Chib, who I don't know if you've all seen this movie called Margarita with the Straw. Malini Chib actually comes from a very affluent, rich family. She lived in the UK, or she still lives in the UK. She is head of one of the divisions of the Citibank in UK, a person who is wheelchair bound, who has cerebral palsy. But what happened was, Malini in her book, she writes that dating was very common in her office. But she would say, no male member, though they would appreciate me for my intelligence, though they would appreciate me for what I can do or what I do at work, and they think I am equal when it comes to employability, none of them have ever approached me for a date. None of them ever thought that I could be a partner in their leisure. So there is this story of Malini actually going in a wheelchair into a bar in London. We assume that the situation is only in India, and in the rest of the world, women with disabilities are accepted and there is no issue with their attitudes towards these women. So Malini says that she walked into this bar in upper London, and she goes there and she orders a drink herself, and she adds one statement which says, can I please have my drink with a straw? Because of her condition, she's unable to hold on to her glass of the drink and drink it. So she needed a straw. So the movie that got made on the life of Malini is actually called Margarita with a Straw. And she said that there were like 100 people in the bar who stopped everything that they were doing and just turned to look at who is this girl who's walked in with a wheelchair and who's ordered this drink with a straw. So for them, you assume that European countries, the acceptance of women is more, but when it came to leisure or when it came to, just relaxing, they thought Malini was in a wrong place. So this is the attitude in general. We don't even think. Ask yourself, how many women with disabilities or girls with disabilities have you actually seen in maybe a public park where there is a swing, where the girl is enjoying, where the girl is swinging? How many places have you actually seen? Maximum we see them in a temple where the girl is walking behind her mother. Beyond that, even that is because Tamil வந்து மைக்கேல் தெரிஞ்சிடுவோம் அப்படி சொல்லுவாங்க. So they take them to the temple because you think God will cure you of a disability, not because you think that the girl or the woman has to be out and has the same kind of say rights like you and I have towards leisure. And the next, I think the most important effect is when it comes to their access to justice. If I, as a person with disability, have to walk into a police station, can you imagine how I will be treated? In the first place, the person on the other end will ask you, why did you come? So what if something happens to you? What is the difference to your life if somebody is abusing you? Like in Tamil they say, which means your identity is to be in one corner of the room. You can't do anything else but to be in that corner, and nobody is going to tell you, okay, what somebody is doing to you is right or wrong, because one, you yourself don't have that ability to come out and talk about it, and two, the society around is not giving you that opportunity to talk about it, right? So what can we do to change these attitudes? What should I, as a person, part of the society do? What can I do? The first thing, this is to women with disabilities in themselves. What can they do? They have to have a leadership role, a participation in the developmental process that is happening. It's been too long when we have actually isolated women with disabilities away from the complete developmental sector. Ask the number of NGOs who work so-called for women development. How many of them add women with special needs into their agenda? Most of them will tell you, oh, this is a very specific field, I cannot, talk about it, or I don't think we will be able to work. It comes to women, they're all willing, there are self-help groups, there are a whole lot of women's organizations, but what happens to women with disabilities? They don't, like there is nobody to talk about it. I as an NGO, I take the blame myself, because I don't think I have done enough to ensure that women with disabilities are kind of brought out to the forefront. In fact, I was amazed by the thought that has gone behind this conference, because when you looked at the topics that were covered, gender, attitudes, you're talking about accessibility, you're talking about a whole lot of stuff, and I think I should really thank NIPMED for choosing this probably at the right time, at the pandemic time, where you have reports of women being abused, especially women with disabilities, where the rate of abuse has been so large, there is no data to prove it. So this conference, I think, has come in the right time. The second thing is, I think women with disabilities have to be involved in the designing of any project. If you are talking about women with disabilities, I think we need to have at least 5 or 10 women with disabilities. I don't know if any of your speakers are women with disabilities, but it would have been wonderful if NIPMED had invited, I hope you have invited maybe somebody like Preeti Srinivasan, who, in spite of, say, spinal cord injury, completely immobile. But the kind of work she is doing is just amazing. In fact, people like that are my role models. So we should give them more opportunity to bring them out and bring leadership qualities out in them. I think a lot of the problems on societal attitudes is more the women themselves, is more the women with disabilities themselves. So somewhere building up their self-esteem, a lot of training programs based on that. There's no point, I know of an organization which is going around the whole country and training women with disabilities on using the computer. And there was this one girl who turned around and asked me, when I don't even have the permission or the confidence to leave my house, leave my house and go alone to this place for training, where is the question of training me? So I think the focus has to be on first building up the skills in terms of maybe confidence, communication, expressing themselves. I think stakeholders need to be trained, and the stakeholders here I mean women with disabilities. And the second is definitely ensuring that girls with disabilities, women with disabilities are included in every single nook and corner, every rural center, every rural school. Start from the primary level. The problem is we don't see young girls with disabilities in either mainstream schools or and suddenly when it comes to colleges and post-graduation, you find it difficult to adjust to these girls. So I think inclusion must happen in education, for which all our schools have to be accessible. And by accessible, I'm tired whenever I hear this. When I say accessibility, the minute even before I finish, they say, oh, we have a ramp. Is ramp alone accessible? How do I reach the school? How do I reach the college? Is my transportation accessible? Do I have signages where it can indicate without being misused by people around? This I think is far more important. So accessibility has to improve, and most importantly, early identification has to be done. Where you are because we run an early intervention center, and we also run a newborn high risk clinic in JIPMA. I can tell you, the minute it is a girl child, the mother, who is the grandmother, is actually standing at the door and saying, "Ayo, please, madam, don't tell my son-in-law that there is anything wrong with this girl child. He will make sure that we, actually leave the girl child here in the hospital and go, because he does not want, first, that it is a girl, and second, that it is a girl with disability." So most often what happens is the girls with disabilities just keep staying home. I know about this child who came to us when she was 4 years old, still not being able to talk. And when I asked, no, what made you wait for so long? He said, we did not want anybody in the neighborhood to know that my child could not talk. We just, kept avoiding. We kept telling everybody that, oh, everybody in my family talks late. That is why this child is talking late. So I think early identification is very, very important. And for huge population like ours, a lot of this problem gets solved if early identification is done at the right age. And participatory research. So I think research is, there's very, very few literature and research available about women with disabilities. Most importantly, I think probably organizations like NIPMED, which is into a lot of research, can involve women with disabilities themselves in doing this research, because only they know what their needs are. As social researchers, we might be able to only kind of give a very flimsy view of the whole picture, but actual what the women go through, what is the impact, how is it affecting them, can happen only if we involve girls with special needs and women with disabilities into research. And that it becomes very important when you want to achieve your Millennium Development Goals of education, of healthcare, of equality, of gender, all this. Otherwise, I guess India will probably be lagging behind on most of this. So what is my recommendation as some of this? What is it that I would recommend? My biggest recommendation is that we need to end all discrimination against women and girls everywhere, no matter home, hospital, at work, at birth, in schools, wherever. We have to end discrimination because you are a woman, then because you have a special need, you don't have this capability, you cannot be done. I think these are issues that attitudes that are really not for the future of this country. The second thing is we need to eliminate any violence. So no matter what, I can probably tell you this, that we run a project called Nanum Pen, which means I too am a woman. And the reason why I started Nanum Pen was because I met a group of young girls with disabilities, women with disabilities, and we were talking about menstruation, menstrual hygiene, sexual reproductive rights, and I was so shocked. And believe me, these group of 30 women were all graduates. Some of them were working in IT companies. Some of them had, PhDs where they were working in colleges as assistant professors. And most of them, they were all visually impaired. And when we were talking about menstruation, sexual reproductive rights, some of them actually told me, we don't know anything about it. Nobody taught us about the human reproductive system. Nobody taught us about what menstruation is. We just were told that blood comes, and imagine you grow up in this atmosphere where, according to you, blood means bad, right? Only if you had a wound, or if you had a illness, or if you had a infection, you bleed. But how do you convince a group of women who always thought blood was bad to say that menstrual blood was not bad blood, and it is a blood that you need to have? If you need to bleed for you to have the possibility of having a child or giving birth to a child. So it took us at least 5 focus group discussions to convince this group of women, to tell them that menstrual blood is not bad blood, and all the myth that is attached with menstruation. That is when it struck to me that we don't have models which the person with the visual impairment can actually feel to understand the entire reproductive cycle, or to understand that this is how the blood flows, this is where the egg gets formed. Now I think I can see a lot more, but this, what I'm talking about, is at least 3 years before. And the other thing is that I do find a lot of women in the unorganized sector who have a special need, who work for like 8 hours a day, but are getting paid far less. And most importantly, you know what? Caregivers who take care of women with disabilities are also not treated well, and they are also not paid well. So this becomes a huge issue. We hear about a number of cases of abuse where the caregiver, so-called caregiver, is actually hitting, physically abusing this child with a disability or women with disability. It is simply because, one, they are completely stressed out. It is too tiring a job. We don't have skilled, trained caregivers, and the caregivers that we employ, what we call ayas, are very poorly paid, and sometimes I feel it's the attitude of the people who are employing these caregivers which is the biggest issue. So I think there has to be some streamlining of caregivers, making sure that, if I have to employ somebody who is on the autism spectrum or who has to take care of a girl in the autism spectrum, I, as a caregiver, need to at least get a decent pay so that I will be able to take care and not harass the person because I have to take care of them. I think a very important aspect. The second thing is definitely reformation in the legislation and in the policy, a policy that is more women friendly, more towards, I think even the new People with Disabilities Act does not very specifically talk about women with disabilities, though I think in a few cases the need is very, very different. The need has to be a slightly tailor-made to suit women with disabilities. And the other thing is also to enhance their ability to technology. I can tell you, as a person who runs an organization, when we wanted to conduct Zoom meetings for people with disability, there was somebody, women with disabilities. There was one girl from, Karaikal, who called me and said, I have access only to maybe a small, what you call, cell phone, which does not even have a smartphone. It's not a smartphone. And she says there are 7 systems and 7 access to 7 different technologies in my family. But they say, why should you be given maybe a laptop? What are you going to do? How is it going to be useful? What are you going to, what are you going to do? You don't know how, you can't even see. How is it that you're going to use a laptop? So I think we have to have specialized programs which focuses on building their skills in technology, so that at times of pandemic like this, they don't become isolated. Already all of us are isolated. Here the isolation is probably 10 times more, simply because you think they do not need an access to technology. And definitely decision making. How many women with disabilities do you know who even participate in what is happening in the family, in the decisions that are being made? Sometimes I think I've seen women who come and say, I did not even select the man that I married. I was told, you can marry him, he is willing to get married to you. Please be grateful that in spite of all your disabilities, here is a man who is willing to marry you. So I think we need to build decision-making ability in women. This will, in a way, change the attitude around us. And very, very important, I think we all as special educators need to put sexual reproductive rights, menstrual hygiene, and prevention of abuse as part of our curriculum, and start it as early as maybe 6 years. Most often, people wait. I know mothers who come and say, how is she going to understand? Why should I talk to her about reproductive rights? I being able, nobody told me. I just learned it after I got married. It can't happen. You need to, like how you go from pillar to post to all the mainstream schools talking about abuse, talking about sexual reproductive rights, where you have classes for, such subjects. I think we have to have a special focus. All special schools especially need to have this as part of their curriculum. One very important, issue with social attitude is somewhere we tell ourselves that this is all that this woman can do. We build barriers around them, and we think that it is enough. This much is enough. Don't go more than this, or this is all you can do. And I think, one issue is also we don't have very many role models. We don't have very many role models because we've had a bad attitude towards women with disabilities. That attitude can change only if consciously every one of you, I think there are like 165 of you attending this program, each one of you take this oath today that in my journey as a special educator, I will try and change the life of one woman with disability. If each of you do it, you see the effect. Sorry. If one of you do it, one woman, she will ensure that 10 other women with disabilities join hands, come with her. That 10 can become another 100, and this can become a huge movement. So this change in attitude has to start now, has to start from us who are so-called professionals in this field, who have taken upon us that we will change, sorry, that we will change lives. And that can happen only if all of you are conscious of the fact that women with disabilities also deserve the same kind of dignity, sorry, the same kind of dignity like any of us, like anybody else, and treat them as equals like you and me. I'll probably stop my presentation here, and if you have any questions or if you want to ask me any more information, I would be very, very happy to share it. Thank you all very much for patiently listening. Sorry about my throat, and I don't think I can continue further.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. And your participant is open for question now. If you have any questions or if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box or you can ask ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And ma'am, it would be better if you had some water.
Sorry, what?
It would be better if you had some water because
Yes,
following this,
you'll have to give me like 2 minutes. Let me go and pick up a glass of water for myself.
please take your time. Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box or you can ask ma'am.
Okay, I'm back.
Dear participants, if you have any
Ma'am,
questions,
can
you
I
can
ask?
put it in the chat box.
Hello,
Yes,
ma'am. Can I ask question?
Yes,
yes,
ma'am, please.
go ahead.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
voice is,
what are the difference
can you please
between
speak
North
louder?
Indian peoples and South Indian peoples facing changing attitude with disabilities?
If you ask me about geographic location and if that makes a difference, I can tell you, I think even generally, there is a difference between, sorry, there is a difference between ably developing women and the way we get treated. Let me probably tell you an example of my own life. I married into a very, very traditional Gujarati family, though I am a South Indian. So the first thing I was told was that women in this community don't work. And I told myself, I have done a master's in social work. I want to I want to change lives. I can't be sitting at home. But then, if you see my life with that of my sisters all had the opportunity to have a career, even without any of their, even without being there being an objection. So geographical differences does matter. I think in the north, given the fact that it is very patriarchal, it is still very difficult for somebody with a disability to be even coming out, leave alone coming out for education. Like say, when I visited Chhattisgarh, this is what I saw. They said she is a girl. Why should she, why should she go to school? She can help me in the household. If she does not, if she has a special need, then it is even more difficult to convince a family to send her to school, because they'll say, ye kya padega? Like what will this girl be able to learn? So I think the differences are far huge, except if you say metro cities, like if you take Delhi, Bombay, Lucknow, places like this, again, where the access to special educators and probably awareness is little high. I think in places like that, women with disabilities have a better life. But abuse is something that happens across India, not just one specific geographical location. Okay? Have I answered your question?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, welcome. Anybody else? Okay, somebody is asking if 21 million is the population of India. Of course, you look at a very conservative 3% of the entire population. We are talking about 1.3 billion people. And out of 1.3 billion, if you say 3%, that is almost 21 million, right? And out of that, you say 9.3 million are women with disabilities, or girls with disabilities. So that's the statistics. You're working in the area of disability and you still ask this question, huh? That's very, very surprising. 21 million is a very conservative estimate. The World Bank report says that 15% of the world population has a disability. And India is still talking about 3% of its population. So calculate, if you're good in maths, 1.3 billion, 3% of 1.3 billion is what? Right? Is your number available in your presentation slides? Yes. You can all Google and see Satya Special School. You'll find my number. And you can also, will you share today's PPT? I will share it with NIPMED. They will decide to share it with you. Anything else? No problem. You know what? Yes.
Ma'am, WWD abbreviation.
Women with disabilities. Yes, is that okay? Is that okay abbreviation? I didn't want to keep saying women with disabilities, women with disabilities.
Okay, ma'am.
You know what? I think I can tell you all this. Like, I don't know how many of you are women in this. We are all extremely blessed and gifted to be actually having a career like this. There's so many women around, you know. Most of you must be very young. When I was growing up, we had to fight for going to school, going to college. Not many families were really interested in the girl doing a post-graduation, because you will not find a man who is more qualified than you. There were issues like this. That was the first thing they would tell you, enough. You finish college, first they'll tell you enough with 12th standard, then they'll tell you enough with college. And then if you want to do post-graduation, they'll tell you, oh, you'll never get a boy to get married. But now, I think for all of you, things are given in a platter. It is assumed that all of you will go to work. It is assumed that all of you will do well in your education. So when you're given this opportunity that so many others don't have, how do you make best use of it? You make best use of it by ensuring that what you have learned is actually shared amongst people who are less fortunate than you and I. And if you think having a woman with disability has her own issues, how can I, as a special educator, how can I, as somebody who's working in this field, what can I do? You don't have to do big things, That doesn't mean you have to today start another organization. No. But you can definitely go time. Sometimes what I feel, all these girls just need somebody with whom they can share their thoughts. Somebody with whom they can go and share their worries. Somebody who will say, okay, I'm there. You can always depend on me. I'm not going to abuse you. I'm not going to misuse you. I will definitely take care of you, or I'll at least ensure that you have the ability to take care of yourself. This is what girls around us are looking for. And I think we as special educators, as social workers, need to ensure that this happens, that this is made possible, that we create this a better world for this community which is so-called less fortunate than you and I. Right? And that is what I want all of you to take away from today. That give yourself time to change one woman's life. It will be a huge blessing even to NIPMED for having taken so much effort. It's not just about filling up an assessment link, getting your CRE points and staying in this profession. It's meaningfully, how did I contribute? Meaningfully, what did I do? All of us have actually taken time out to come and talk and share this, simply because I feel out of this 165, even if 10 people decide, okay, what everybody or the resource person saying is making sense, can I now do something about it? Can I change a few people's attitude? Can I change the community around me? If that happens, then next time maybe there is a program like this, many of you could be the resource person to talk about it, rather than us still talking about statistics and women's conditions. And I'm tired of talking about it. We need to move to the next step. And I think the responsibility is with all of us to do it. It's not something that one person can do, or one Chitra Shah sitting in Pondicherry can do. I can maximum come online and talk to people like you, but you need to now go and reap these benefits of this program, not just my talk. I'm sure you're going to hear so many experts talk about it. So many experts who have done some amazing work talk about what they have done. Pick up things from that and go and share. Go and ensure that women come out. I think our responsibility starts today if you have not been doing this before. Right?
Sure, ma'am. We will try our level.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, I thought somebody was saying something.
So, I'm sure the participants would try their level best to make a change in someone's life. Some women who are differently able, and they may help them
Yes,
out.
I also hope so.
That's which we can do. That's hope. And thank you so much, ma'am, for being.
I think there is one sister, Anis Maria, who's raised her hand. Sister, do you want to say something?
No, ma'am, no. Nothing, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all very much, and thank you, Nipmed, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you all for patiently listening to me.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you so much for joining us even in your busy schedule. And the school spaces you have shared, everything was like very inspiring one. And the works which you are doing is like it is really you are an inspiration for all of us. And hope every one of us will make some changes. That's the thing I can tell you now. And okay, once again, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
being with
much,
us.
and thank you everyone for this opportunity. I also hope that you all try and change at least some
Thank you
lives.
so
Yeah.
much, ma'am.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
your knowledge and experience with us. It was really very, very valuable and informative. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I log off now, if you don't mind?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.